Hey guys, are you ready to embark on a nostalgic journey that'll rock the universe of our beloved X-Men? Today, we're going to dive headfirst into X-Men 97, the sequel to the legendary 90s series that brightened up our childhoods. How will our heroes cope with the absence of their mentor, Professor Xavier? And what'll happen now that Magneto looks like he's going to take on the role of Professor Xavier? What's more, Jubilee has finally become a full-fledged X-Man, but what does that mean for the team? Get ready, because we're going to unravel these questions and bring to light secrets that'll make you want to marathon X-Men 97 non-stop, including watching and revisiting the first seasons of the X-Men animated series. Do you want me to go through episode by episode of this new season? Comment below. Before continuing, remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video to stay updated. Your likes and subscriptions aid in the growth of the project, and with the project growing, I can bring more exciting videos to you. How about that? Thanks for the support. Moving on, the sequel to the 90s X-Men series named X-Men 97 is on its way, and it's going to continue exactly where the original series ended. This could be one of the best or one of the worst ideas, but either way, it's been nearly 3 decades since the last episode of the original series. Man, I'm getting old because I watched it when it premiered. Comment below if you also watched it when it premiered, or if you caught it in a rerun or on Disney. Let's give you a full overview of everything you need to know before diving into X-Men. And so, get your favorite cereal ready and put on your comfiest pajamas, because we're going to revive the Saturday morning cartoons. The first thing you need to keep in mind is that Professor Xavier is no longer with us. At least that's what it appears to be. This was highlighted in the trailer, with Magneto saying that Charles left everything to him in his will. This is because in the 90s animated X-Men series, Charles, so to say, died in the last episode titled Graduation Day. He didn't actually die, but it was as if he had gone away. At the end of the series, Henry Grinch, an anti-mutant activist, uses an energy disruptor on Xavier, causing his powers to go out of control, leading him to fall into a coma. The X-Men try everything to save Xavier, but in the end, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean go to Magneto, and Jean asks him how much he cares about Charles. He replies that Charles is his only equal and that he owes him his own life. Jean then says that he is the only one who can save Charles's life, and tells about a telepathic message to Lilandra, Charles's romantic partner, who possesses advanced technology and is Xavier's only hope. Magneto is torn between reshaping the world with an army of mutants, and his love for Charles prevails. He goes to Charles's bedside and uses his powers to send a superpowered telepathic message to Lilandra. Charles wakes up briefly and bids an emotional farewell to the X-Men, saying how proud he is of them. I've already made a video talking about and showing the end of the animated series. Very exciting. I'll leave the link in the description of this video, but if I forget, remind me in the comments. Charles wakes up briefly and bids an emotional farewell to the X-Men, saying how proud he is of them. Lilandra receives the message, arrives, and tells the X-Men that they were right to think that the Shi'ar would have techniques to save Charles. She tells him that he will survive, but only under the care of the Shi'ar, and takes Charles into space while the X-Men and Magneto come to terms with his departure. So Charles is not dead, but she was taken by Lilandra so that the Shi'ar could save her life. With their absence on Earth, the X-Men are left without a mentor. And as we saw in the X-Men 97 trailer, Magneto seems to want to take on this new role, as Xavier left everything to him, including the school for gifted youngsters. This will most likely be one of the main themes of the X-Men 97 series, how the team is coping with the loss of Charles, and how they'll deal with Magneto attempting to become the leader of the X-Men. This brings us to another important point to remember before X-Men As I briefly mentioned, by the end of the X-Men animated series, Magneto was on the verge of taking over the world, achieving his ultimate goal of mutants ruling everyone. He even tells Jean that with just one word, he could reshape the world. But his affection for Charles Xavier makes him stop all of this to help save Charles's life. Now that Xavier's out of the picture and Magneto owns everything he built, it looks like he's going to pick up where he left off in the last episode. But now he can use all of Xavier's resources to further his world domination, which is incredible. He would have already succeeded with it after the attack on Charles Xavier when even more mutants rallied to Magneto's side. That gave him a sizable army to do as he pleases. The big question is, will the X-Men be more willing to stand by Magneto this time around because of what happened to Xavier? I think not all, but certainly some of them will want revenge. That would make a good plot. The fact is, Xavier is gone. Magneto has everything he needs to carry out his plans for mutant domination with no one to stop him. It's going to be very interesting to see how X-Men 97 explores it. So the next important thing you need to remember about X-Men 97 is that Jubilee graduated, becoming a full member of the X-Men. For most of the series, Jubilee was an X-Men in training. In the first episode, Night of the Sentinels, Jubilee is rescued by the X-Men and becomes an apprentice. But it was over the course of the series, no episode showed her growth as much as episode 6 of season 5, Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater. In this episode, Jubilee leads a group of children through a cave system, and due to seismic activity, they become stranded. While waiting for the X-Men to rescue them, she tells a fairy story to distract the children. This episode shows how much Jubilee has matured, keeping the children calm and ensuring that they get out safely. It was excellent that Jubilee took the lead in protection of the children when originally she was the teenager being protected. At the end of the episode, Professor Xavier even comments that our young girl has always been ready for the adventures the world has to offer, with Wolverine adding whether the world is ready for her. This shows us that Jubilee has matured and is ready to face the world as an adult and as an equal to the X-Men. So it's entirely logical if we see Jubilee acting a bit differently than we knew her in the original X-Men series, since she has now become a bona fide X-Man mentoring other young mutants. Another key point is that Morph has returned to the X-Men, as we witnessed in the episode Graduation Day, the last episode of the 90s series. Yes, a lot transpired in this episode, but that only makes it even more intriguing to see how everything that happened there will be explored in this new season of X-Men 97. Morph had one of the best plot arcs throughout the series, believed to be dead in the second episode, Night of the Sentinels Part 2, when he was vaporized by a Sentinel. However, he reappears alive under the influence of Mr. Sinister, becoming an enemy of his old friends. Over the course of this series, Morph gradually returns to being the good mutant he once was, but refuses to rejoin to the X-Men for not fully trusting himself. However, this changes in the last episode when he disguises himself as Xavier after Xavier is attacked on TV, trying to calm the mutant riots. Unfortunately, that doesn't work, but it was still a huge act of redemption for Morph. What really brought his story to a climax and gave him his redemption were the last words of Xavier to him while he was on his deathbed, so to speak. Xavier said, "Morph, it's good to have you home, facing your fears. You've proven to be truly an X-Men." Morph simply listened, with tears streaming down his face. It was really great that X-Men the animated series started with Morph as a key member of the team and ended the same way. That's why he'll be on the main team from the beginning of X-Men 97. Speaking of permanent members of the X-Men, Time Traveler Bishop will also be an integral member of the team in this new series. They're not including Bishop just because he's a cool character, but because it actually makes sense. Although he wasn't a permanent member of the X-Men 90, he appeared regularly throughout the series. He played a crucial role in the interpretation of the iconic X-Men story, Days of Future Past. So if you haven't watched the original 90s X-Men series, don't be surprised to see him on the team. He's a very natural addition to the main X-Men cast, as he has an extensive history of working with the X-Men throughout the series. Speaking of time-traveling characters, the X-Men animated series also introduced Cable. He appeared sporadically throughout the series, making his first appearance in the episode Slave Island, which was the 7th episode of the first season. He also appears in episode 99 of the series Okura, and most notably in episode 78 of season 2 called Time Runaways Parts 1 and 2. Now, the reason why I say it's important to remember Cable's involvement in the original series, because as we saw in the X-Men 97 trailer, Jean is pregnant with Cyclops' baby, and we know that Cyclops is Cable's father. So since Cable is a time-traveling mutant, that means X-Men 97 will explore Cable's existence as a baby, with Jean being pregnant. Now I know what many of you must be thinking. This is impossible because Jean is not Cable's mother in the comics. His mother is a clone of Jean, known as Madeline Pryor, raised by Mr. Sinister. But I think if they're smart in the animated reality, they just make the regular Jean Cable's mother. This would solve a lot of annoying continuity issues and would be a lot less confusing. If that's the case, and I hope it is, it would make all the sense in the world, considering that Cable was a much-loved character who appeared in the original series. And since Bishop, who is also a time-traveling mutant, now a core member of X-Men 97, it only makes sense that Cable would reappear. Perhaps even because, at this point, Jean is pregnant with him. Another thing to keep in mind is that Apocalypse has been defeated, but he is not dead. In the 4-part story Beyond Good and Evil from Season 4, Apocalypse gathered a number of allies across the time stream to manipulate the entire timeline, but was defeated by the X-Men with his consciousness trapped on the astral plane. But once again, he's just trapped, not dead, and I believe that he's going to escape in X-Men 97 and will be a significant part of the series, since Apocalypse is one of the biggest X-Men villains. All I'm saying is, if he escapes the astral plane, remember it was because he was trapped there at the end of the story, Beyond Good and Evil. And the one thing everyone needs to remember is that humans and mutants still aren't getting along. One might even say that the situation is worse than ever, or at least it seemed to be that way at the end of X-Men, the animated series. Remember, the series ended with an anti-mutant interview killing the Apare. Apparently killing Professor Xavier led to the wrath of many mutants who joined Magneto for world domination. So don't be shocked if X-Men 97 starts with everything unclear and total chaos. That doesn't mean it will be like this, because we still don't know what happened between the original series and this one, since there will be a time loop from 96 to 97, but things might get a lot worse. This also doesn't mean that the X-Men didn't try to promote peace and coexistence, which is their main mission and Xavier's greatest motivation. It just didn't work. I think it will start in total chaos. Having these informations in mind, you should be ready for X-Men 97. It's filled with memories for us 90s kids and definitely gets us more excited for the new series. Will it live up to its predecessor? Only time will tell. Leave your thoughts and questions in the comments. I'd love to discuss the video's topics. You will see suggestions of upcoming videos popping up here that make total sense for you to watch. See you in the next video. See you later. I'm thankful for the opportunity to say goodbye. I'm proud of you all, my X-Men, subtitled by the Amara.org community.